Welcome back to Cozy Cabin's History, the podcast that takes you through remarkable stories and moments that shaped our world. I'm your host, Wren, and you're listening to our series, Echoes of Japan, where we explore the history, culture, and people of Japan. In today's episode, we approach one of the most difficult chapters, Japan's entrance into World War II. World War II brought devastation, conflict, and tragedy on a scale that reshaped the world. And while Japan played a central role in the war's darker moments, today we want to shift our lens. This episode focuses on individuals who, even amid war's bleakness, shone as beacons of hope, compassion, and courage. From a diplomat who saved thousands to a pacifist who dared to speak out, these are the stories of those who stood against the tides of war. So, get comfortable, take a deep breath, and let's journey together through stories of light in a time of darkness. And before we begin, make sure to follow and subscribe to Cozy Cabin's History so you don't miss any of our future episodes. Our first story takes us to 1940 in Kaunas, Lithuania. As the Nazis advanced across Europe, Jewish refugees found themselves trapped, desperate for escape, but with no safe passage out. At the center of this unfolding crisis was Chiune Sugihara, a Japanese diplomat stationed in Lithuania. The refugees crowded outside his consulate, begging for visas to flee through Japan. Sugihara faced an impossible choice: obey strict orders from Tokyo, which forbade him from helping, or risk his career and his family's safety by listening to his conscience. Sugihara chose compassion. For weeks, he handwrote visas from dawn until dusk, sometimes issuing more than 300 a day. His wife, Yukiko, brought him food so he wouldn't have to stop. He slept little, his hand aching with the unrelenting task of saving lives. Even as he boarded a departing train, Sugihara continued to write, handing out life-saving papers through the window to desperate families. In total, he saved around 6,000 lives, granting safe passage to people who would otherwise have perished. For those refugees, the simple piece of paper, signed by Sugihara's hand, was hope made real. Generations today exist because of his unshakable courage. Sugihara's quiet heroism went largely unrecognized during his lifetime. Only later would history honor him as the Japanese Schindler. His actions show that moral courage can thrive even when the world seems indifferent, and one individual's humanity can change the fate of thousands. Legacy is a reminder that even in a world full of barriers and orders, the decision to do good, no matter the cost, can ripple through history in ways we may never fully see. While Japan marched to war, Fusai Ichikawa waged a different kind of battle, one for equality. Born in 1893, Ichikawa was a fierce advocate for women's rights in a society that kept women silenced and sidelined. Ichikawa traveled abroad, learning from global women's movements, and returned to Japan with a vision for change. In the 1920s, she co-founded organizations to push for women's suffrage and education, despite increasing societal pressure to focus women's efforts solely on supporting the war. During World War II, Ichikawa refused to give in. While propaganda urged women to birth and raise soldiers for the empire, she continued spreading her message of empowerment. Her writings and lectures challenged deeply entrenched norms, planting seeds of change even during turbulent times. She was often criticized and dismissed, but Ichikawa pressed on with unshakable resolve. When the war ended, Ichikawa seized the opportunity to demand reform. In 1945, women in Japan won the right to vote for the first time, a moment Ichikawa had fought decades for. Over 13 million women participated in the first election, forever changing the face of Japanese democracy. Ichikawa spent the rest of her life advancing women's education and independence, ensuring that women's voices would continue to shape the nation. She believed that empowering women wasn't just about equality, it was about building a stronger, fairer society for everyone. Her story is a testament to the belief that progress cannot wait, and that even amidst war, hope for a better future must endure. Ichikawa's lifelong fight reminds us that change often begins with a single voice refusing to be silenced. Toyohiko Kagawa was a Christian minister, social reformer, and tireless advocate for the poor. Born in 1888, Kagawa's early experiences with poverty shaped his lifelong mission to bring dignity to the oppressed and challenge Japan's rising militarism. During Japan's militarization, Kagawa stood as one of the few outspoken pacifists. He preached nonviolence, organized relief for the poor, and called for compassion over conflict. For this, the government saw him as a threat, arresting and silencing him multiple times. But Kagawa's message was not confined to words. He lived among the poor in slums, sharing in their struggles and organizing cooperative movements, hospitals, and schools. Kagawa believed that the strength of a society lay in its ability to care for its most vulnerable. Even when persecuted, Kagawa's actions spoke louder than any suppression, showing that peace and service could stand in defiance of war. Kagawa was often asked why he chose to live in poverty when he could have sought comfort. His answer was simple. He could not help others without understanding their struggles firsthand. To him, true faith meant serving others with humility and sacrifice. His life was a reminder that strength is not found in violence, but in love and action. Kagawa's legacy continues to inspire those who believe that justice and peace are worth fighting for, even in the most difficult times. Art can be a powerful form of resistance, and few understood this better than Taro Yashima. An artist and anti-militarist, Yashima's story is one of courage through creativity. Born in Japan, Yashima and his wife, Mitsu, openly opposed their country's increasingly militaristic government in the 1930s. Both were arrested and subjected to harsh interrogations, enduring physical and emotional abuse for their dissenting views. After their release, they fled to the United States, leaving behind their homeland but not their fight. In America, Yashima turned to art as his weapon of choice. He created anti-fascist propaganda, using his talent to expose the brutality of the regime and inspire resistance. His bold, emotive illustrations brought awareness to the human cost of war, reminding others of the suffering that militarism inflicted on ordinary people. After the war, Yashima's focus shifted to children's literature. His celebrated works, such as Crow Boy, carry timeless messages of peace, understanding, and kindness. Yashima believed that through storytelling, future generations could learn to choose compassion over conflict. Through his art, Yashima proved that creativity could be both a weapon and a balm, defying oppression while inspiring healing and hope. Our final story is about Shigure Yoshida, a leader who guided Japan from devastation to recovery. A diplomat during the war, Yoshida had long believed that Japan's militaristic ambitions would lead to destruction. After Japan's surrender in 1945, Yoshida emerged as a key figure in rebuilding the nation. As Prime Minister, he made a critical choice to focus on peace, economic growth, and education rather than military power. Yoshida believed Japan's future lay in progress, not war. Under his leadership, Japan began its transformation from an imperial power to a peaceful, thriving nation. Yoshida's pragmatism and vision laid the foundation for modern Japan, proving that even in defeat, a nation could find renewal and hope. Yoshida's leadership taught Japan to embrace peace as strength and showed the world that a nation's true power lies not in its weapons, but its ability to heal, rebuild, and grow. When we look back at history, particularly moments as devastating as World War II, it's easy to feel overwhelmed by the scale of suffering and destruction. Yet, within these vast and complex events are individual stories. Stories of those who resisted, protected, and persevered. Each of these figures teaches us something profound about human resilience and morality. Sugihara reminds us that even when the cost is high, choosing compassion can save generations. Ichikawa shows us that change begins when one person refuses to accept injustice. Kagawa proves that peace is not passive. It requires courage and action. Yashima reveals that creativity and art can stand as a form of defiance, sparking change through hope and understanding. And Yoshida demonstrates that leadership rooted in vision and pragmatism can rebuild nations, turning devastation into a foundation for peace and renewal. In a world that often feels divided, their stories resonate more than ever. They remind us that small acts of courage, compassion, and resistance can ripple outward, touching lives in ways we may never see. From Sugihara's quiet defiance to Kagawa's compassionate resistance and Yashima's artful protest, these individuals remind us that even in the darkest times, there are those who choose to stand for what is right. Their courage created ripples of hope that continue to inspire today. Thank you for joining me, friend, on this journey through Japan's World War II history and the inspiring stories of light that emerged from its shadows. If you enjoyed this episode, please follow and subscribe to Cozy Cabin's History and share it with those who might find comfort in these stories. Until next time, stay curious, stay cozy, and I'll see you again soon.